I have made you a co-host, Chia. You can share the textbook.
Yes, sir, I'll do.
And today we will be starting with Ram Kahani, chapter 10, Balbhadra Ram. अरहंत सिद्ध सुर उपाध्याय साधु सर्व अर्थ के प्रकाशी मांगलिक उपकारी है तीन को स्वरूप जानी रागते भई जो भक्ति काय को नमाए स्तुति को उच्चारी है धन्य धन्य तुम्ही से काज सब आज भयो कर जोरी बारंबार वंदना हमारी है मंगल कल्याण सुख ऐसो हम चाहते हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है हो मेरी ऐसी दशा जैसी तुम धारी है. So last week we had covered this chapter of active consciousness, Upyog. I think it was chapter number 3, operative consciousness. Okay. So in that I want to add something which is not in the book. So this active consciousness or Upyog is of one moment. Okay. Every moment there is a new modification coming up. The old one gets destroyed and the new one comes out. That happens automatically every moment with all the substances in this universe. Okay. So now, if we analyze that modification, one moment's modification of Jeev, okay, which is called active consciousness or Upyog. Now, in that Upyog or active consciousness or in that modification, there are two partitions. Okay. One part is the active consciousness, Upyog, janna, 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 to know, to know, to know, knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Okay. So, knowledge modification, and in that modification, which is of one moment, there are two partitions. One part is the active consciousness, janna, 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 janna. That is happening every moment. Even when we are sleeping, our active consciousness is quite active. Okay. It is manifesting every moment. Now, if we analyze that modification of one moment, there are two partitions. One part is the active consciousness, and the other part is attachments, aversions, passions, then all kinds of toxic emotions, all these are happening every moment. So the active consciousness only knows. His function is to know. Okay. And active consciousness and the soul are two different things, but they are one. Okay. That active consciousness is part of the soul. It represents the soul in the modification. And what is the other part? That attachments, aversions, sentiments, toxic emotions, passions, and then if we consider the most subtle one is the vikalp, the thoughts, So the thoughts are coming on its own. We are only a knower of thoughts. 1 minute. Huh? Sorry. So that thoughts that are coming on, okay. So our active consciousness is different from thought. Are you able to comprehend? Emali, what I said, just repeat.
So the fact that active consciousness is different from our thoughts, but so I missed the beginning.
Okay, no problem. So, so this much what you have said is correct. There are in one, the modifications duration is only one moment, okay? And in that one moment, in that modification, if we analyzed subtly, then there are two parts. One part is the active consciousness, which is active, always active. Even when we were in one sensed being, it was still there. When we were into two sensed being, it was there. It is also now, and it's also going to be there when we get liberated. So that know to know to know to know to know, knowing, जानना 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 जानना, एक समय, one moment, okay? It's happening all the time. Even when we are sleeping, it is still active, okay? That's why we come to know that today, I saw a dream. And in that dream, I saw that I became a prime minister and I became an actor, I became a cricketer, whatever. So dreams can be of any types. There is no such uh, uh, any correct sequence for that. It can come anytime. Even thoughts. Now, we were talking about dreams, but during our daytime when we are awake, we always have the flow of thoughts, passing on, passing on, passing on. Sometimes we get unwanted thoughts and we feel that we are the most bad person, most wicked person, because my thoughts are like this. But here, what I want to what I want to emphasize is that the active consciousness is part of the soul. It is not dependent on any karmas. Okay. And that active consciousness job is to know. Okay. So primary function of the soul is the active consciousness, and it knows every moment. Okay. To know. That's all. That is his job, active consciousness. Now, what does it know? Then we have those feelings of attachments, aversions, passions running incessantly, right? But the most subtle of is the thoughts, which are vikalp. So that also is not our function. It is just reflecting in our modification and our active consciousness. The soul, through his active consciousness, is knowing that. So I am not a doer of those thoughts. So why should I feel bad about it if I get some bad thoughts, wicked thoughts? If you, Jia, if you get a thought that I will destroy the whole city of Mumbai, right? Only the thoughts. Now these kind of thoughts comes to different kind of persons. Those people we call as extremist. They don't have any purpose. They just harm the people. You must have read in the newspaper that there is indiscriminate firing going on in US someday or the other. So they don't have any motive. They have nothing against the common public as such, but their mind has developed to that level that just they want to create some chaos, havoc, fear in the minds of the people, you know, and this extremist and all, they are like that. Now that development is because of their psychological and emotional, uh, what I would say, uh, the wrong kind of emotions that they had. But that is again automatic. Now they are destined to go to hell. So they will have this kind of feelings. Now somebody who is destined to go to heaven, he will have all the good thoughts that let help people, let do the welfare of the people, that kind of thoughts. So the question is that where we need to practice our discriminative knowledge. That is the main question. So there is a fine line between the active consciousness and the attachments, aversions, passions, thoughts. These are all going on. So there is a fine line between that. Now, if we identify that line and put a what you call X there, then what will happen? It will divide into two. It is already, sorry, what happened? You are not able to listen to my voice?
Yes, it is breaking in between, and the video also becomes still. I don't know if it's happening to others also.
No, sir, I can hear you very clearly. This is Himali here.
Okay. Jia, what about
Okay,
you?
okay.
Sir, I can also hear you clearly.
Okay. So Madhuji, I
Okay,
think
then
there
it,
is some
okay,
internet
yeah, I
problem.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
So
it. Thank you. Sorry, sir.
you
Thank you.
just close the video and just see it. Just
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
okay. So there is a fine line between the active consciousness and the passions. Now, when we don't identify the difference between the two and we consider them as one, then we become a doer of thoughts, attachments, aversions, toxic emotions, thoughts, whatever it is, we believe that I'm only thinking about it. I'm only thinking about it. But actually the thinking, the thoughts that are coming automatic, that is just because of our past karmas. Now that extremist, why is getting those thoughts to kill innocent people, without any motive in a person? And if you must have read in the newspaper why this is all happening in US and some other places, why it's happening. It's just the mental problem. Even in India, every third person is into depression. Now, why that depression comes? Can anyone explain why that depression comes? Because this is quite related to what we are discussing now, what I want to emphasize on. So I would like to hear why those thoughts come.
I think maybe people want their life to move in a certain fashion, and because it is not moving like that, they feel helpless, or they feel that, and they are not happy, or people are not listening to them.
Yes,
But
yes.
they don't realize that they cannot control others. What they can control is their actions towards the outside circumstances.
Very good. Very good answer. Anybody else? So why do people get into depression? That is what we are discussing. And Urja has uh, very nicely given some logics. But I would like each one of you to explore, because this is where we are going to, put a hammer between the two parts. And this is how we practice descriptive knowledge. Yeah, Himali.
So, in addition to what Urja said about, people wanting more, not being satisfied, wanting their
Right.
life. So it is also probably got to do with the, I mean, those desires come maybe also because of our past karmas, the attachments we have made to others in our current life, that influence us. In addition to that, the fact that we've not realized that, the real purpose of your life, which is the higher purpose, which is to take refuge in your soul, and all of these externalities don't matter.
Right. Very good. Very nice answer. Both of you have tried very nicely. Jia, you would try? You should try, because unless and until we try, we don't realize our faults, mistakes.
Yeah, in addition, it could also be because, like, if people lack the motivation for their everyday lives, that could also be a factor for depression. And
Okay. Madhuji? Okay. So now we will apply 4 expositions on this. You have studied the lesson of 4 expositions, and we have also learned how to apply it in our day-to-day life. So why a certain person gets into depression? Now, there was a report from WHO that every third person in India is under the influence of some mental problems, And in India, people are generally not very keen on going to a doctor and saying that I am having a mental problem. In the West, US and all, it's very common. They go to the doctor, they take those medicines and therapies and all. So Jia, you are studying this psychology only, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is your subject only. We are now getting into a subject which generally a psychologist or a psychiatrist would deal with, okay? But our Tattva Gyan is itself very complete and we can solve any kinds of problems, whether it's related to psychologist or psychiatrist or doctor or engineer, whatever it may be. Our the knowledge of the scripts is enough to tackle all those problems. So this cause of depression, now if we put 4 exposition into it, so Himali highlighted about karmas, past karmas. Okay, why these thoughts are coming like that? Because of our past karma. So that is from Karnani Yoga. Now, what Urja said, we can relate it to, uh, to Dravyan Yoga, right? Because people have this desire of uh, controlling the activities that are happening around, and they are not the doer of those activities, and those activities are not according to his desires. So they get upset. And when you get upset, it's kind of depression. Okay. So that leads us to Dravyan Yoga, which says that every modification is sequence bound. The thoughts which will come because of your past karmas will come only, and it will come at the right time. There is no wrong time. Now somebody some guest comes to our place, and sometimes if we are very homely and friendly to them, we say that you have come at a wrong time. We are just going out for an appointment to the doctor. Now what that guest will say, oh, you should go, you should go. But the thing is that he was destined to come, and those things were supposed to reflect on your knowledge at that point of time. So all things happen that way. So this leads us to the principle that all the modifications are sequence bound, not only of Jeev, but all other substances, whether it is matter, whether it is medium of motion, medium of rest, and space and time. All these 6 substances, they are having infinite attributes in them, and each attributes is having one modification at a time. So what we experience is a collection of infinite attributes performing their functions simultaneously, and that is the total experience that we experience, right? The manifestation of each attributes, and sum total of all attributes is our experience per moment. Okay. Now in that moment, these things has to reflect. So it has come. And as you said, from Karnan Yoga, it is our past karma. From Dravyan Yoga, if you see that we are only a knower, how does it matter? Whether I have a thought that I became a Prime Minister of India, or I have a thought that I became an extremist, both the conditions, I am only a knower. So what does it matter? So if you can think on those lines, you will never get a depression. Jia, when you practice, what you will advise to your clients, So there is a lot of demand for psychologists and psychiatrists. And the other day, one of my relatives, they were having some mental problem. So I went with them to the doctor. He was an MD doctor, psychiatrist only, right? So there was so big queue, around 50 people were in the waiting, and we had taken an appointment. They have taken an appointment. So just because they don't have a car, so I went to pick them up, and we went there to the doctor. So we were waiting. Then our turn also came, and then I met the doctor. So he was so cool, he was just observing what the patient was saying. And then he recommended few medicines and he said, she will come out. Don't worry, she will come out, but it will take some time. So now these thoughts are coming automatically. And people feel that I am the doer of that thought. And that's where the tension comes up. That's where the depression comes up. Okay. So we have covered Karnani Yoga, we have covered Dravyani Yoga. Now from Charnani Yoga, if we analyze, right, why this is happening, because that particular person, he or she, is not having access to good reading material. Our thoughts follows what we read. So if you see a horror movie and then sleep, what kind of dreams you are going to get? You will get dreams of fear only. And not only today, but tomorrow also when you go to school, when a kid goes to school, teacher is teaching something, but he is into that memory of horror movie. He saw the before previous night and it's still haunting him. And teacher is explaining, he is not able to concentrate. He's not able to understand. Why? Because that thoughts. So from Charnan Yoga, we will see you be in good companies, good persons, you study good things, you be honest in your life, you be simple in your life, you don't deceit, you don't uh, cheat anybody, you will be very transparent, frank. These are the qualities that if you acquire and if you practice this in your life, then you will have a relatively very simple life, no tensions. But tensions only happen only when we want to hide something. You want to hide something to your parents, you want to hide something, this and that. And nowadays there are so many boyfriends and these and breakup, and then the person goes through a trauma, kind of feeling when there is a breakup, and sometimes they commit suicide. you know so all these things are happening. So the mental problems are on the rise, and post-COVID, the medicines also has taken a toll, and they are also responsible for those kind of mental problems. Okay, but we, with our principles, we can solve any kind of mental problems. In fact, if you are studying the scriptures every day, you will be in a happy mode. Because you are learning some tricks where you are going to get liberated, where you are going to end this circle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. And what would be the cause of that? This descriptive knowledge, the discrimination between the thoughts that are coming through and your active consciousness. Now, active consciousness is part of our soul. Okay. And in the present modification, that active consciousness is the representative of the soul. Now, I'll give you an example of submarine. We all must not have gone to a submarine, but we have an idea, okay, that it plies below the water at a very good height, good depth below the water. So there was a submarine. This is an example, okay. In that submarine, there were windows of glass through which you can see. And you were inside the submarine, absolutely safe. And you were just watching below the water what's are there. So a fish was coming towards you. And suddenly you got a fear. Oh, but then you saw that he cannot enter. You are in a submarine and that is all packed. Even a drop of water cannot enter. So through that glass you were seeing, and that fish was coming towards you and it hit the glass. And you just like this, you removed your head from there and you thought that I'll be attacked by that fish. But suddenly you realize that, oh, it cannot enter us. So now the next time when you are seeing from that glass, and if a fish or a whale or a crocodile, snake, whatever comes, you will be fearful? No. Why? Because now you know that it doesn't enter our submarine. So similarly, this active consciousness is part of our soul. And through this active consciousness, we know the things. We know this is laptop, this is mobile, this is textbook, this is that. But we only know the other part, what is being known, that is not important. It could be anything. It could be mobile, it could be laptop, it could be anything, right? But what does it matter? What matters is that I am only a knower. So to know mobile, to know laptop, to know textbook, in all this, to know is common. So if you can separate this to know and the object, then you have practiced descriptive knowledge. Oh, I am the knower, right? Now, what difference does it make? Whether I see a laptop, whether I see a mobile, whether I see what. And you know, these monks, they practice this kind of knowledge. And when there is an inflictions on them, you know, upsarg, at that point of time, they practice this knowledge that nothing is happening to me. I am only a knower. If he is eating this body, then what does it matter? This body does not belong to me, you know. So that way they practice this descriptive knowledge and they remain concentrated on their self and they manifest omniscience knowledge and they get liberated. You know, this is how, yeah. You have any questions, Hemali?
Sir, so can we say that active consciousness is like the eyes of the soul? They just
Yes,
know or
yes,
witness.
yes. It is the eyes of the soul. It is the primary characteristics of the soul. You know, soul is identified to that only. Any other substance apart from soul does not have this quality of knowing. Okay. So my soul, my knowing. Your soul, your knowing. For me, you are all falling into the category of non-soul. And for you, everyone else is falling into the category of non-soul elements. Okay. So now you are very clear where we need to put our hammer, you know, between to separate the two things. One is the active consciousness, which is our part, okay, which is our function. And the other thing that you are, that is coming to your knowledge, the attachments, the aversions, the passions, you know, the anger, pride, deceit, and greed, you know, all sorts of the toxic emotions and the unwanted thoughts, you know. People are mostly getting depressed because of unwanted thoughts. And you know why those come? From Charnan Yoga, we will say that if you see bad movies, bad things, those thoughts will follow you. If you read a bad book or a porn, if you watch a porn, you will have those thoughts, you know. So you have to purposely get you have to purposely not to indulge in those kind of things. And you should not have friends who are that, you know. If you go to a friend's company or a friend circle where everyone is drinking alcohol and they will motivate you, "Arey, thoda to pee le." Now, if you remain in their company, one day you will also you will start drinking alcohol because every time they will motivate you and you will see that out of 10 people, 9 people are drinking. So ये तो चलता है. Now this is modern times, you know. People are very matured and this is all very normal and all the parties, these things are happening. So now if you are into company of those people, you will also have those bad habits. But if you are mixing with good people who have got very high morals in their life and they are also into this kind of knowledge, you know, they will motivate you. Now, if you also discuss that, you know, yesterday I had a fight with these people and these happened. So they will say, don't worry, just relax. They are not the doer of these things. You have to just see them as the gods. Each one is God. Okay. So if you think on those lines, then you will realize that they are just only an instrumental cause to this event, you know, and my past karmas are also responsible for that, so that they were acting like that, you know, and all these things will bring passionlessness, equanimity in you, and you will be calm and relaxed from inside. So this is how we practice descriptive knowledge. So we have covered 3 expositions: Karnan Yog, Charnan Yog, and Dravyan Yog. Now moving on to the Pratman Yog. Even in Pratman Yog, we have stories of Ramchandra ji and Sita ji, and they also had adverse situations in their life, but they knew this knowledge and they practiced descriptive knowledge and they came out of it. So we can also come out of it if we practice this descriptive knowledge. Okay, so we stop here. Every now and then you have to apply 4 expositions. Okay, so don't forget that it's a very practical way of living happily forever. In every situation we should find a way where we don't get into those toxic emotions. We are always happy. So that's why my DP reads like this: happiness always. Always means sada, every time. And always, then always, ALLWAYS. Always means everywhere. Every sphere of life, you should be a happy person. You should be able to solve those problems by applying this knowledge that you are only a knower and active consciousness is your part. And whatever else is happening is all because of our past karmas, past impressions, sanskar. We all have sanskars from previous life. If you see, if you go in a hospital, there are say 10 kids of 2 months each. Okay, 2 months, 3 months. So you will see that there is a difference of behavior of each. Now, why? Because it's their past impressions, sanskar, that is coming into play. Now, somebody was very calm. So he is very calm here. Somebody was very hyper in their previous life. So that hyperness has come because the soul is same. So those past impressions are coming into play. And that's why all the kids are of 2 months each, but each have a different kind of characteristics, different kind of behavior, different kind of confidence, different kind of inner strength. So just because past impressions also plays a role, then there is a rise of karma also there, and there are other factors also. So everything comes into play at one time, and that's where you need to analyze that which one is responsible for what kind of behavior. So this way you solve the cases. Jia, you are getting? I'll introduce to one of our past students. She has also graduated in psychology, and then she's now in UK for further studies. So you will get a good guidance from her also. And I want to explore how we can fit our principles, okay, what we learn here, into your kind of problems. So we are capable of solving all kinds of problems, but the studies that you do, the psychologists, they have a limitations to their knowledge. But we go beyond those limitations, and actually we bring happiness. And we generally, people don't require this kind of medicines, but since the psychiatrist, they are into medical field, psychologist will not recommend any medicines. He will recommend therapies. But if you go to a psychiatrist, they give some medicines, and those medicines are nothing but a kind of drug, heroin, what is called steroid. Yeah, they used to give steroid. That my relatives, she's taking steroids, and it's been, if one day she doesn't take that medicine, no, she gets restless. Now they have been addicted to those drugs, and at the end of the day, what finally matters is that you have certain years in your life. You will live that anyways. So every time they go to this doctor, psychiatrist, and so in between they get a trigger, influenced by some thoughts or events or newspaper. So I told them that I can help your wife with this problem with this knowledge of Jainism. So no, don't say Jainism anything, because then suddenly her thoughts goes on those lines, and then she become this and that. So I said, leave it. If you don't want to understand, you leave it. We can't help you. But there is a solution to each and every problem. But people are generally not believing this because they only know that doctor can solve the problem. But the mental problems is our sphere. And first, we should be happy, and then we can make others also happy, you know. So this was some practical discussion that we didn't do last week when we studied this chapter of active consciousness. So you add these thoughts into there, and you keep on applying in your life, and you can see that how happiness just flows in. You don't have to do anything. You just understand these principles, apply in the situations, and you see that there is no problem as such. There is no problem. There is nothing called problem in this universe. Problem is that you forget these principles. You forget that you are yourself a God. You are a soul. You are a complete soul, you know. And then you become a doer of those things, and then the problem starts. So the problem is of karta buddhi, and the solution is that you are a karta swabhavi. Okay, you are not a doer of these thoughts. It's coming automatically. You are only a knower. Any questions on this particular matter? Urja, you understood everything? I think you understood very nicely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. So this is, we end here for this topic. Now we move on to a story of Ramchandraji, Balbhadra Ram. It is chapter number, I think it is 10, page number 49. Yeah, thank you. Hemali, you read.
Balbhadra Ram. Student. Are Ram and Hanuman not gods? Teacher. Who says they are not gods? They attained complete liberation from Mount Mangitungi and are enjoying perfect bliss of the Siddhas. We learn from the Nirvan Khand that Ram, Hanu, Sugriv, Sunil, Gavaksha, Neel, Mahanil, and 99 crore monks attained complete liberation from Mangitungi, which is a place of worship for us. Student. Have Sugriv and other monkeys and Nal, Neel and other bears also attained supreme liberation? Have they also become gods? Teacher. Neither were Hanuman and Sugriv monkeys, nor Nal and Neel bears. They were very handsome and noble personalities and attained complete detachment and omniscience in their life by their supreme effort. Student. Why are they then called monkeys, etc., monkey, etc.? Teacher. The clan to which they belong was called Banar, monkey. Likewise, Ravan was not a giant. He belonged to the Rakshas, which is the giant clan, and was the king of the 3 regions of land. Student. People say he had 10 mouths. Is that correct? Teacher. Is there any man having 10 mouths? His name was Dashmukh. The reason was that in his childhood he used to wear a necklace having 9 jewels. The reflection of his mouth fell on these gems and it appeared as if he had 10 mouths. It was on that account that people began to call him Dashmukh. Student. Where was Ram born? Teacher. Boy Ram was born from the womb of Kaushalya, the queen of King Dashrath of Ayodhya. With the pursuit of his soul, he became Bhagwan, which is God Ram. King Dashrath had 4 queens. Out of these, Kaushalya gave birth to Ram, Sumitra to Lakshman, Kaikai to Bharat, and Suprabha to Shatrugna. Student. So Ram had three more brothers and teacher. Ram was married to Sita, the daughter of King Janak. Once King Dashrath thought that his son was now able to bear the burden of the kingdom, and so he wanted to hand over the reins of the kingdom to Ram and absorb him in the pursuit of the self. And absorb himself, in the pursuit of the self. He also announced the date of the anointment ceremony of Ram, but student. But what? Teacher. Queen Kaikai wanted their son Bharat to become the king. She therefore demanded two boons that the king had promised her. First was that Ram should be exiled for 14 years, and the second that Bharat should be declared king of Ayodhya. Dashrath was grieved to hear this, but he was bound by his promise, and Ram had to go to the woods. Sita and Lakshman accompanied him. Student. Did Bharat become the king then? Teacher. In fact, he did not like to become the king. Student. Ram must have faced many difficulties in the wood. Teacher. Ram and Lakshman did not worry about the day to day ordinary difficulties of the life in the woods, but they were very much disturbed when Sita was kidnapped.
But
Student.
stop here. Yeah. So this is the first part of the story. So there are 4 parts in this story. So this is the end of first part. The story starts with that Ram and Hanuman, like generally common uh, in common languages we said that Ram and Hanuman are gods. सब उनको भगवान मानते हैं. Ganesh and all, they consider themselves to be God. But in Jainism, the Ramayana is a bit different. So there is a Ramayana which you saw in the TV serials, just like a serial. That Ramayana is slightly different. That is written by sage Valmiki. And our Ramayana is a bit different. Okay. So there will be some difference here and there. So Hanuman and Ram, they attained complete liberation from Mount Mangitungi. Now this Mangitungi is in Nasik district. Okay, it's near Nasik, Mount Mangitungi. And they have got liberated and they are now in the Sithsila. We learned from the Nirvan Kand. So Nirvan Kand is a kind of prayer, okay, wherein it is mentioned that Ram, Hanuman, Sugriv I think was a brother of Hanuman. Then Sudil, it is not Sunil, but it is Sudil. But I think in English it would be Sunil also, but in Hindi it is Sudila, D for Delhi. Then Gavaksha, Neel Mahanil, and 90 crore monks attained complete liberation from Mangitungi. So you can see how this place is so pure, because 99 crore monks attained complete liberation from Mangitungi, and it is quite near to Bombay, Nasik, 4-5 hours journey only. Okay, so from that place, 99 crore monks attained salvation. Now, can you imagine that in the 4th era, how things would be? 99 crores getting liberated. So path of liberation was open, and people were just, those people who were bound to liberate, they were born in that 4th era, and they did their job and they got liberated. So this is a very holy place for us, worth visiting. And that's why we go there to see that atmosphere, how they would have done their meditation here and they got liberated. So it's a place of worship for us. And there is one more place called Gajpanta. That is also quite near Devlali only. And there also many monks got liberated from there also. So we are living in that land of Tirthankars and monks who got liberated. So you just can imagine that how lucky we are to be born in India. Then Hanuman and Sugriv monkey, neither Hanuman and Sugriv were monkeys, and neither Nal and Neel were bears. They were very handsome and noble personalities and attained complete detachment, vitrakta, purna vitrakta, and omniscience in their life by their supreme effort. So these were all very enlightened people, and they were not monkeys and bears as in perceived by the normal Ramayana. Then why they are called monkeys? The clan to which they belonged was called Banar. Banar means monkey. So they belong to that clan. Likewise, Ravan was not a giant, means Rakshas. Okay. He belonged to the Rakshas giant clan and was the king of the 3 regions of land. So Ravan was a Ardha Chakravarti. There is a Chakravarti and Ardha Chakravarti. Chakravarti is the king of six regions of land, and Ardha Chakravarti is a king of 3 regions of land. Okay, so Bharat Chakravarti was Chakravarti, and he was the king of the 6 regions. Chhe Khand ke Adhipati is Chakravarti, and 3 Khand ke Adhipati is Ardha Chakravarti. So Ravan was a Ardha Chakravarti. People say he had 10 mouths. So actually a human cannot have a 10 mouths, but his name was Dasmukh. And the reason of giving that name was when he was a child, he used to wear a necklace having 9 jewels, and in each jewels that face was reflecting. So people just named him as Dasmukh. The reflection of his mouth or the face fell on these gems, and it appeared as if it had 10 mouths. It was on that account that people began to call him as Dasmukh. So in the normal Ramayana, people believe that Ravan was having 10 faces, but no, he was having only one face. Where was Ram born? Boy Ram was born from the womb of Kaushalya, the king of Dasrath. So Dasrath had 4 wives, and Ram was born to Kaushalya. The king, Dasrath was the king of Ayodhya. With the pursuit of his soul, he became Bhagwan God Ram. King Dasrath had 4 queens. Out of these, Kaushalya gave birth to Ram, Sumitra to Lakshman, Kaikeyi to Bharat, and Suprabha to Shatrughan. So 4 queens and 4 sons, each from each queen. Okay. So Ram had 3 more brothers, and Ram was married to Sita, the daughter of King Janak. Once King Dasrath thought that his son was now able to bear the burden of the kingdom, and so he wanted to hand over the reins of the kingdom to Ram and absorb himself in the pursuit of the self. So in previous days, these kings used to leave everything and become a monk to pursue of their soul, that they used to do. So Dasrath also thought that Ram has grown up now and is quite capable of managing this kingdom. So I will take a retirement from this my family life, and I will become a monk, and I will I will try for self-realization and attain liberation. He also announced the date of anointment ceremony of Ram, Rajya Abhishek. There is a Rajya Abhishek when a king leaves the kingdom and makes another person a king. There is a Rajya Abhishek. That is called anointment ceremony. Anointment means Abhishek. We also do anointment every day in our temple. Okay. So that is called Abhishek. But what? Queen Kaikeyi wanted her son Bharat to become a king. So once Dasrath had promised to her that I will give you whatever you ask for. So Rani Kaikeyi said that I will ask for it when a right time comes. Even in that story of Vishnu Kumar Muniraj, Raksha Bandhan story. Okay, so those 4 ministers, they also took a word from the king, and they also said that let me rule the kingdom when we need it. So when this Vishnu Kumar and Akampnacharya and other 700 monks visited that place, they took they cash in on their demand that give me kingdom for 7 days, and then they inflicted pains on those monks, So similarly, Kaikeyi was also uh, uh, Dasrath committed something to Kaikeyi, and that Kaikeyi practiced that thing when Ram was supposed to become the king. So Kaikeyi wanted her son Bharat to become a king. So he had two boons from the king, that you ask whatever you want. So she made the first demand, that let Ram be exiled for 14 years, and the second, let Bharat be made the king. So now Dasrath was helpless because he had already committed and he cannot come back from his commitment. So he had promised, so he has to honor that promise. So Ram had to go to the woods, and Sita and Lakshman also accompanied him. And Bharat became the king. But Bharat didn't want to become a king. So this is how the Ram, Lakshman and Sita went to the woods, and there they faced many challenges that will come up next. So Ram and Lakshman were very talented fighters, and they were not carried away by the ordinary difficulties in their life. But once when Sita was kidnapped, they were also very disturbed, So now the second part of the story starts. It's only 2 paragraphs. And Urja, you read. Who kidnapped Sita?
Yes, student, who kidnapped Sita? Teacher, the king of Lanka, Ravan kidnapped Sita. Hanuman, Sugriv, and others were kings under his sovereignty, but they had abandoned their loyalty towards him on account of this ignoble action. His brother Vibhishan tried to persuade him to return Sita to Ram, but he was destined to suffer, and therefore he did not listen to him at all. Ultimately, Vibhishan also left his court. Student, what next? Teacher, Ram and Lakshman invaded Lanka. Vibhishan, Sugriv, Nal, Neel, Hanuman, and other kings of different regions sided and the vicious Ravan faced the fate that he deserved. He was killed, and Ram and Lakshman won the field. Sita was taken back by Ram. 14 years came to an end, and Ram and Lakshman came back to Ayodhya and began to rule.
Stop.
Student.
Stop. So
Yeah.
this is the second part of the story, where Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, the king of Lanka. And because of this act, the other kings also, who were under his sovereignty, they also abandoned their loyalty towards him, because this was a wrongful act. Ravan was Ardha Chakravarti, and he was king of 3 regions, and I think he had 18,000 wives. Mandodari was also very beautiful and talented. He had so many good wives, and still he was attracted by Sita, And if you read that story of Ramayana, as per Jainism, so this Sita and Ravan were together since last 10 births. And that attraction was still continuing. And in this birth also, in spite of having 18,000 good-looking wives, Ravan got attracted to Sita. So we say that past sanskars or past impressions also has a bearing on in your present life, and because of this, Ravan kidnapped Sita. Sita was already married to Ram, and still Ravan kidnapped Sita. So because of this act, Ravan's brothers Vibhushan, he also left the court, because he tried to explain to convince Ravan to return Sita to Ram, but he was destined to suffer. Now this is very important. So he was destined to suffer. So he has this kind of thoughts, coming up, and because of these thoughts and the subsequent activity of kidnapping, uh, he was killed by Lakshman. Okay. So Vibhishan also left his court, and then Ram and Lakshman invaded Lanka, and Vibhishan, Sugriv, Nal, Neel, Hanuman, and other kings of different regions also helped Ram and Lakshman, and Ravan was defeated and killed, and Sita was taken back by Ram. 14 years came to an end. Their exile also came to an end, and they came back to Ayodhya, and they began to rule. So this was the second part of the story. Now coming on to the third part, Jia, you read.
Student, it is good the misfortune ended. Then Sita and Ram must have led a life of pelf and pleasures. Teacher, is there any happiness in worldly pleasures? They have been regarded as abodes of miseries. As long as there are delusions, attachments, and aversions in the soul, there are miseries around. They lived happily for some days only, after which Ram exiled pregnant Sita on account of public slander. Vajrajang, the king of Pudrikpur, accepted Sita as his sister and gave her shelter. Had he not done so, student, then teacher, Sita gave birth to twin brothers, Love and Kush, in Pudrikpur. Both the brothers were strong, calm, and glorious, just as Ram and Lakshman were. They also waged a war on Ram and Lakshman. Student, who won? Teacher, both the parties remained invincible. Before defeat or victory could be decided, both the parties knew that it was a fight between the father and his sons. Battlefield was therefore turned into a family union ground. Student,
Stop. So this is the third part of the story. So Sita and Ram came back to Ayodhya, and they began to rule, and they were enjoying those the associations that they had, being a king and queen. So they had enough wealth and all the five sensory objects, everything. Is there any happiness in worldly pleasures? They have been regarded as abodes of miseries. As long as there are delusions, attachments, and aversions in the soul, there are miseries all around. They lived happily for some days only, after which Ram exiled pregnant Sita on account of public slander. Now, what was that public slander is not explained here, but we know from the stories that because of that Dhobi, he said that why Sita has been accepted, because she was in exile for she was there at Ravan's place. Although Ravan kidnapped Sita because of his past impressions, but he was a man of principle, and he had thought in his mind that if Sita accepts me as his husband, then only I will touch her, otherwise I won't touch her. So she never touched Sita. Okay. And Sita was all around, Sita was also very pure, and she does not had any feeling for Ravan in that context. But still, there was a public slander, and there was all kinds of talks that Ram should have punished Sita because she was there with Ravan, this and that. So Ram exiled Sita, and she was pregnant at that point of time, and Ram, I think, was not still aware that she is pregnant or whatever. Maybe there are certain different versions of that story, but whatever it is, Sita was exiled, and Now just imagine she's pregnant and she's put into the jungle. There is nobody to help her. And but as she was also an enlightened soul, and she was held by Vajrajang, king of Pundrikpur, and he accepted Sita as his sister and gave her shelter and protections, and that is where Sita gave birth to his twin sons, Love and Kush, and both were very strong, calm, and talented, just as Ram and Lakshman were. So they also waged a war on Ram and Lakshman. Okay. And who won? Nobody won, because as the fight was going on, they came to know that this is a fight between father and sons. And then everything was settled, and that battlefield turned into a family union ground, you know. And Ram realized that this Love and Kush were his sons, and the Love and Kush realized that Ram was their father. So then everything was settled. There was no disputes, and now they all come back to Ayodhya. So now the next part of the story. Madhuji, you will read fourth part.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
In between, if there is some problem, please
No,
forgive me.
you are quite audible.
Because
No problem.
sometimes it comes. Okay. Uh, 1 minute. Did Sita's
Yeah.
both the yeah, did did Sita's misfortunes come to an end? Then, teacher, misfortunes cannot come to an end in the background of attachment and aversion. Detachment is the only way to end misfortunes. Student, what happened next? Teacher, Ram refused to accept Sita without her going through the fire as her test of purity. Student, then teacher, the great Sita entered the fire and proved her purity. Strong burning fire turned into cold and calm water. The heavenly beings performed this miracle to establish the dignity of a pure life. Student, Ram then must have accepted Sita. Teacher, yes, Ram was ready to accept her as his queen, but she did, but she herself did not like to burn herself in the furnace of the household, because she had realized that there was no joy in the pleasures of senses. The path of detachment is the only way to supreme happiness. She, therefore, engrossed herself in the pursuit of the soul. Student, and Ram, teacher. After some time, Ram also realized the transitoriness of worldly life and became a detached monk. He destroyed attachments and aversions and became an omniscient being, having reached the highest point of his self pursuit. Student, the, the story of Ram is very interesting and educative. I have joined it and learned many new things. Could you not explain this in more details? Teacher, there is no time to describe there is no time to describe the events in details. If you want to know more details, you should study Padam Puran Ravi Senacharya. Student, it must be in Sanskrit. Teacher, yes, the original text is in Sanskrit, but Pandit Daulat Ramji Kasliwal has translated it in Hindi also. Student, where shall we get it? Teacher, in the temple. You can get Padam Puran in every Jain temple where people read it daily.
1 minute. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So you see, the Sita's misfortune did not come to an end. So the first time she went to the jungle was with Ram for 14 years. At that point of time, she was the daughter of King Janak. So she could have remained in the kingdom and enjoyed, but she chose to be with her husband, and she went to the jungle with Ram. That was the first time. The second time she went to the jungle was when Ram, because of public center there. That was the second time. And now the third time, after the reunion of the family, Love Kush and Ram and all, then yeah. So Sita chose not to go to the kingdom again. And yeah, no. So misfortunes cannot come to an end in the background of attachment and aversions. Detachment is the only way to end for misfortunes. So again, they came back to Ayodhya and started ruling. Now, Ram refused to accept Sita without her going through the fire as her test of purity. So now she was exiled again. So now she came back. So Ram again asked Sita to get the test of purity. Then what happened? Sita was not worried because she was already pure, and she doesn't had any thought that what will happen. So the great Sita entered the fire and proved her purity. So Ram told her to jump into the fire. And Sita, without thinking anything, she jumped into the fire because she knew that she was pure. So she will come out of that test of purity. Strong burning fire turned into cold and calm water. Now, how did this happen? The heavenly beings performed this miracle to establish the dignity of a pure life. Pure life means Sita was Silvan. Okay, she doesn't had anything in her mind. She was not doing any act of deceitfulness, and so that fire turned into calm and cool water. Why? Because the heavenly beings helped Sita, you know. So these heavenly beings, now if you have this rise of auspicious karma, anybody will help you. When she went to jungle, that king of Pundrikpur, what was her name? What was his name? Vajrajang. Vajrajang helped her. Now, when there was a test of purity, this heavenly beings helped her, right? And she came out of that test of purity, and Ram then was ready to accept Sita. But Sita, this paragraph is very important. Ram then must have accepted Sita. Teacher, yes. Like the next before page, not this page. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Ram was ready to accept her as his queen, but she herself did not like to burn herself in the furnace of the household. Okay. So Ram was ready to accept her as his queen because she cleared the test of purity, but she herself did not like to burn herself in the furnace of the household. So the household life is just like a furnace. Every now and then there is a situation where you have to, anger, you have to manifest anger, then pride, then deceit and greed and what not. You get all kinds of toxic emotions while living a life of household. So Sita thought that enough is enough. Now I want to get initiated into a woman monkhood, Arjika Mata. You know Arjika Mata. So she became a Arjika because she had realized that there was no joy in the pleasure of senses, in this worldly life, in the household. Okay. So she realized that there was no joy. So let's accept the path of monkhood and become a she monk. The path of detachment is the only way to supreme happiness. So you have to get detached from everything. She therefore engrossed herself in the pursuit of the soul, and she took vows of she monk. She became an Arjika. In the Hindi version, it is written that she became an Arjika. But here, it's just written that she therefore engrossed herself in the pursuit of the soul. And what happened to Ram? After some time, Ram also realized the transitoriness of the worldly life and became a detached monk. He destroyed attachments, aversions, and became an omniscient being, having reached the highest point of his self pursuit. So, Ram also became a monk and he got liberated from the same birth. Okay. He became a monk and he practiced meditation and he became an omniscient being. Okay. In the 13th stage of spiritual development. And then he acquired the 14th stage of spiritual development and he got liberated. So he got liberated from this place called Mangi Tungi. The story of Ram is very interesting and educative. What was interesting and educative from this story? Urja, you say. What are the takeaways of this story? Madhuji, you tell.
Yes, sir. First of all, that human life is full of
Challenges,
challenges like miseries and happiness involved.
right?
And so, since we are in this state of human
Existence.
existence, we should detach ourselves
Hmm.
slowly. This is
Right.
not possible very early, but after learning so much, coming through these lessons, and
Hmm.
also from our family life,
Hmm.
our parents, we learn that detachment is necessary. Maybe it is not possible for everyone, or
Hmm.
it is not possible in this life,
Hmm.
but we should have that feeling of detachment that there is a point where we should get detached slowly.
Hmm. So
So,
detached is from a negative side. What would be a positive side?
learning from all this positive, matlab,
So getting detached means enjoying or manifesting happiness.
pleasure, happiness, and
Yeah.
our senses. Of course, we have this unhappiness also. So, if
Hmm.
we detach ourselves, we can become happy in that way.
Yes, like that, right? So this is
Yeah.
the takeaway from this story. And if you want to learn in detail, then you have to study Padma Puran written by Ravi Sen Acharya. So that the text of Padma Puran, it's a Pratman Yog story and it's written by Acharya Ravi Sen. Yeah, it's written in Sanskrit, but Pandit Daulat Ramji Kasliwal has translated it in Hindi also. So in most of the temples, you have this kind of textbooks in the library and you can get it and you can read it in detail. This is available everywhere in the temples in India. So this
So,
is a
ये
story.
हाँ जस्ट मिनट सर ये क्या अपने दिगंबर टेम्पल्स में होता है ये बिकॉज आई हैव नॉट
Yeah,
सीन
but nowadays most of the temples don't give so many books, but still
अच्छा
the older temples you will have this book, Padma
अच्छा
Puran.
अच्छा
New temples don't have that much of collection of books, but old temples do have this kind of books. And
ओके
it was a practice to keep all the textbooks in the temple, and people used to come and read. And there was also a scholar coming. Most of the temples had scholars in their rank, and they used to listen to their pravachans every day in the temple. So that was the practice. But now, because of the diversifications and the nucleus family coming up, so nowadays we don't have scholars in every temple, but earlier it was there. And now we are short of scholars. So if you study properly, you can become a scholar and you can take classes there in your temple. There are so many women classes going on, especially for females, and there are shivers also for females. Now, one shivir is coming up in Baswada from 26th July. Only women.
Rajasthan.
Yeah,
Rajasthan.
Rajasthan, right. So there will be a shivir exclusively for women, So,
Oh.
so you can also become a scholar. That's what I wanted to convey, that
Mm.
if you study properly, you can also teach and share your thoughts and knowledge with others. And that is how the religion will spread up to the end of fifth era. Okay. So when the fifth era,
आपने भी तो सिखाया था सर.
pardon?
10 साल आपने भी तो सिखाया था. You were telling us.
Huh?
बालबोध में.
Huh.
है ना?
So like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
but now with Parmagam, I'm very busy and
Yeah. That's why you can't. Yeah. You were
our
telling
syllabus is
earlier.
also very hectic, so I cannot afford to take holidays nowadays. But in the month of July only, and in month
Yeah.
of January, I do have some holidays when your objective exams are going.
Exams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Got
At
it.
that point, I do go to attend some CVs and take guidance from my seniors.
Right.
So this was story. The most interesting character is of Sita, and of course Ram also had difficulties in her life to leave Sita and sent her to jungle because of public slander, and he was a king, so he should do justice to his kingsmanship also, and that's why he sent Sita to the jungle. And she was pregnant at that point of time, and there was nobody to support also. But if you have done good things in life, good support always comes to you from unknown sources. You never know what will happen in the jungle, but in jungle also she got protection from King Vajrajang of Pundrikpur. So when you study this kind of scriptures, you automatically bind auspicious karma, and you always get good things in life, but we are not satisfied. Our aim is not to get good things in life. Our aim is to get complete detachment, and for achieving that, you need to study the scriptures, understand these principles, understand the structure of the soul through its substance, attributes, and modifications. And then you practice descriptive knowledge, and that's where you get ahead in the path of spiritualism. So our next chapter is how do we get liberated? Okay, path of liberation. I think, yeah, the name of the chapter, Path to Liberation, chapter 7. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Madhuji, is it okay if I go first?
Yeah, Madhuji,
Or
you have.
you also have a question?
No problem. You can. Why not? You ask her, no?
Yes,
It's
thank you.
okay.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, it is said that in some, I think later on in the next list of Tirthankars, Ravan is going to become a Tirthankar.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, what does he change from this Rakshas,
He
thing
was not a Rakshas
Mm.
as such. He was a human being only, but he was from a Rakshas clan. So that community's name was Rakshas community, but he was not a Rakshas in the present life.
How does he go on to become a Tirthankar?
So now in this life, because of his past impressions and the past karmas, he indulged in that act of kidnapping, and then he realized that he has done the wrong thing, and but because of ego, what is the cause of him going to the hell is not the kidnapping part, it is the ego part. So at one point of time, he realized that I will return Sita to Ram, because Sita was not ready to accept him as his husband, right? And he had this vow that if Sita does not agree, I will not touch her. So she never touched Sita. And he was also a very brilliant king also, and he had many uh, uh, many riddhis also with him, and that's how he became he became a Ram also. So when he donned the role of a Ram, that thought of uh, uh, having you know uh, the thought of forcing somebody others to become her wife doesn't rose, so he was having this special quality of becoming uh, some other characters also. So he became Ram and went to Sita, but when he became a Ram, that feeling does not came to him to uh, accept Sita as his wife. So that's how we stopped, and then subsequently Lakshman killed Ravan, and because of this his at one point he realized that I will return Sita to Ram, but because of ego he thought that I will first win over Ram and then return Sita to her. So he had made up his mind to return Sita to Ram, but he thought that let me show my strength and defeat Ram and Lakshman. But on the contrary, he was defeated and he was killed by Lakshman, and he went to hell. Because of this act, he went to hell. And from hell, he again went to human. He got a human form, and then he became a monk, and then he will get liberated after becoming a Tirthankar. Okay. So Ravan will become a Tirthankar and Sita will become Gandhar, chief disciple of Ravan, in that birth. So Sita is now into heaven. Lakshman is also into now Narak because he killed Ravan. So he is also into hell. And Ram got liberated in the same birth. So Ram got liberated, Sita went to heaven, Ravan and Lakshman went to hell. So this is how things pan out. But you must have committed something here. But later on, you can become a good person. You can still learn this knowledge of scriptures, and you can also become an enlightened soul, and then you can become a monk, and then you can get liberated in your next few births. So this is what will happen to Ravan, and then he will become a Tirthankar and he will also attain liberation.
But sir, it's not possible to attain liberation, no, in this fifth era. How he will
Not in fifth era. Then it will be, I think, he will become a Tirthankar of Ghatki Khand. So this is Bharat Kshetra, and he will become a king of Ghatki Khand. So now also in Videsh Kshetra, people are still getting liberated. So you finish your life here, you take birth in a Videsh Kshetra, you become a monk and you get liberated there. Because path of liberation is open from there now. Because there is a fourth era going on there. In the Videsh Kshetra, where Simandar Swami is there, there is a fourth era going on. There are always minimum 20 Tirthankars there any point of time. And people are getting liberated from there right now also. So here in Bharat Kshetra, people don't get liberated in the fifth era. But from Videsh Kshetra, where there is a fourth era always, people are getting liberated there, and there are Tirthankars there always. Yeah, Madhuji, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. It is
Yeah.
not about our daily lesson. It is actually more about practical. Like living in family life, sir, detachment, how much ever you try, is not possible. Living in family.
No, it is not that you can still become detached, but
That
partial detachment. You can attain
how
fourth.
is
You can become a Samyak Drashti now. Okay. You can go to fifth stage also, spiritual development now, being a woman. You can become an Arjika now, but you cannot go beyond fifth stage. That is the limitation now. But it is not that the path of liberation is closed for now. Even in a household, you can become a right believer right now. Okay.
Acha, just by becoming a right believer and following those steps.
Yes.
ऐसे?
You can
Oh,
go up to 5th stage. You can become a right
that is
believer in the 4th stage, then practicing further descriptive knowledge. You can increase your detachment and you can become an Arjika also. Okay. So that much progress is possible now. And
अच्छा.
males, you can still become a monk now, but you cannot go beyond the 7th stage of spiritual uh, spiritual stages. 7th stage. You cannot attend the 8th stage. Okay. So up to 7th stage, you can still become a monk for a male person. And for a
Okay,
female,
you say, sorry.
so up to 5th stage, you can go. So it is not that the path of liberation is not open for us. We can still attend the path of liberation. Only thing is that we cannot get liberated now. That is the limitation.
हाँ. So partial detachment, family में रह के, staying in the family, how by following not eating in the night, not eating Jamaican, is these are the steps, right?
These are the outer disciplines, but internally you have to practice descriptive knowledge. You have
Like
to,
what?
yeah,
Hmm.
you have to practice this descriptive knowledge and you have to understand the scriptures and the principles, and then you have to apply those in your day-to-day life. Now, even if we are living in a household life now, we can still
Yeah.
practice descriptive knowledge, you know.
मैंने आप example बताइए सर ये descriptive
Example like
knowledge क्या है?
if your kids do something wrong, you know,
Yeah,
then
yes,
you can still analyze those thoughts that why this has happened from 4 expositions, and you
right,
can,
right.
yeah, and you
Hmm.
can very well motivate him not to commit those mistakes and sins in and that way you can also uplift those people. So
Okay,
once you understand these principles, you can apply it in every situation in your life, whether you
अच्छा,
are uh, uh, living with your in-laws also. You can
right.
it's not that you cannot do practice discriminative knowledge in household only. You can still practice household discriminative knowledge in household also, whether you are in a student life like Gia is still studying, but she can also practice discriminative knowledge. So anything and everyone who are above the age of 8 years, you know, 8 years is something that that's the minimum age of 8 years. After that, any kid can realize himself. Okay. Whether it is a
अच्छा,
gent, it's a boy or a girl, they can still practice discriminative knowledge and experience themselves. Self-realization is still possible. Okay. So,
and one more thing, sir.
hmm.
Have we got any meditation classes by chance? I just want to know in our
Pardon?
course, meditation classes,
we
like
don't
taking.
we don't encourage meditation classes, because meditation is something will happen when you uh, arrive at the,
Realization.
yeah, yeah, after realization meditation
Okay.
automatically happens. Okay. So
अच्छा,
if you have not identified your soul, so
okay.
what you will meditate on? The meditation classes that are going on, they meditate on swas, your uh,
Yeah,
what you call
yeah. Your
Your
taking
breath.
breath. Exactly.
breath. Yeah, they meditate on breath. So that is
Right.
not
Yeah.
meditation we recommend. We recommend that you study, and meditation will come automatically to you once you have identified your soul. So once you identify your soul, then only you can concentrate on that, no? So before concentrating on the soul, you have to identify your soul, you have to realize your soul. So once the
अच्छा,
realization happens, meditation automatically follows. A very good
okay.
example is given by different scholars is that uh, uh, now Gia is not married, right? Now I will tell Gia that you meditate on your husband. How she will meditate? Because she has
Yeah,
not chosen her partner. Now, how she can meditate her husband, right?
got it.
Once you decide on the uh, nature of your soul and you realize that you are the soul, then the meditation will automatically follow.
Yes. Yes.
So a
Yes.
person who is not married or who has not got engaged, how can he meditate on his spouse, right? So this
I
is,
understood what you're trying to say. Yes, sir.
first you have to identify your soul, and then the
Okay.
meditation will automatically follow. So there
Right.
was this person of 25 years age, and he was uh, not married or not engaged. And if you asked him to meditate on your wife, he will not be able to do that, because he has not chosen his wife now, right? But
Right,
once
sir.
he's engaged, even if you tell him not to meditate on your wife, even while he's doing job, his thought will go to his fiancée, you know. He will remember his fiancée while he's working. He will remember his fiancée while he's eating. Uh, so it's always very automatically these thoughts come, you know. So
Yes.
whenever in our life, whenever you got engaged, what feeling you have? Now you
Yeah.
before engagement, he was nobody to you, but after engagement, he is a part of your life, right? So
Right.
automatically
Right.
your thoughts draws to that person. So it is
Yes.
like that. So once you identify your soul, meditation happens automatically. So we don't have a classes on meditation separately, but
Right.
nowadays meditation is in the form of samayik, you know. You sit in a
Oh,
place and think on whatever you have learned in your uh, while doing your swadhyay, whatever you have learned, you can still meditate on those. You can think on those, the principles, how you arrive at a conclusion, how you arrive at an equanimity by practicing, by putting four expositions in your day-to-day life situations. So these all things you can practice while meditating, right? So that way you can do meditation, but actual meditation will happen after the realization of the self.
actually, there was a call.
Pardon?
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah.
No, there was a call suddenly, so I
Oh,
could not speak up.
okay.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I had this in mind from a long time. The sort of
Mhm.
practical knowledge also is a little necessary.
Right.
So I asked a few
Yeah,
questions.
definitely. You should ask this kind of questions, whatever doubts
Right,
you have. Okay.
right, sir. And I thought you are the right person, so I said I'll
Yes,
just
yes, yes.
ask.
Anytime, in any your personal life situations also, I
Right?
can guide you on based on the principles that we have, how to go ahead.
Yes. Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
So will next chapter is the 9th chapter, Path of Liberation. Hmm. Uh, Not lesson number 9, but 7, I think. Yeah, 7th. Sorry. It is lesson number 7, the path to liberation. Jia? Yes. Thank you. So this particular chapter is taken from Purshat Siddhi Upay, written by Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev. And we know about Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev because in Vitrag Vigyan part 2, chapter number 7, Ahimsa, non-violence, right? In that chapter, we had read about Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev. So Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev is famous. He was in the 12th century, and he is famous because he has written commentaries on Samaysar, Pravajnsar, and Panchastikai Tika. These commentaries are very good. Apart from that, he has written Tatvarsar, a poetic translation of the sutras of Acharya Umaswami, Tatvat Sutra, and he has written Pursat Siddhi Upay, work on the life of householder. So householder also can live a very good life, and that is all depicted in Pursat Siddhi Upay. The nature of violence and non-violence has been very realistically depicted in this work, And that what we read, that chapter of Ahimsa, that is also adapted from Pursat Siddhi Upay. So this path of liberation is also adapted from this textbook of Pursat Siddhi Upay. And yeah, so this path to liberation. So right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. These three jewels is the path of liberation that is being explained in this chapter, and how we can achieve right faith, how we can achieve right knowledge, and how we can achieve right conduct is explained in this chapter. Very good chapter, because we all want to walk on this path of liberation. So we should know what is the path of liberation. Okay. So Madhuji, you start reading, not the introduction of Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev, but the next page.
Okay, sir.
Jia, yeah, this one. Path to liberation.
The path to liberation. Speaker. Just a minute. No. The path to liberation. Speaker. It is a fundamental fact accepted and experienced by all that all the living beings in the world are unhappy and everybody wants to get rid of this unhappiness. They also make attempts to do so, but since they do not know the correct path to the state of perfect happiness, all their attempts are in vain. The basic question, thus, is what is the real path to liberation? What is the path of liberation? Before this question is answered, it is desirable to solve the question what liberation is. Liberation means complete freedom from grief and pain. All unhappiness is full of restlessness. Liberation, therefore, must be without any restlessness. There is no complete happiness. That is liberation, as long as there is even a little restlessness. Describing the path of liberation, Acharya Amrit Chandra writes, the unity of right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct is the path to liberation. All beings should try to follow this path. It is thus clear that the unity of the three, that is, right faith, which means true belief, right knowledge, which means true understanding, and right conduct is real path to liberation. The question now arises, what are right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct? Really speaking, all the three are modifications of the soul. That is, they are its pure modifications. Discarding non-self substances to lean towards one's soul and to regard it as one's nature is right faith. To have real knowledge of the soul and the substances is right knowledge, and to merge oneself with one's sentient soul is right conduct. Explaining it further,
First,
Acharya.
stop here. Huh? Let me
Yes,
explain.
yes,
So
yes,
the first paragraph is very important. It is a fundamental fact accepted and experienced by all that all the living beings in the world are unhappy. Okay, so there is miseries all around, but we don't realize it that we are unhappy. We believe that the sensory objects that we have in our life, the comforts that we have in life, and we are happy with those things. And everybody wants to get rid of this unhappiness. They also make attempts to do so. But since they do not know the correct path to the state of perfect happiness, all their attempts are in vain. Okay. So people don't know the correct path. Okay. So that is very important to know the correct path. And when you know the correct path, you can work on that. and you can attain happiness. The basic question thus is, what is the real path to liberation? So what is this path of liberation? First, we should know what liberation is. Liberation means complete freedom from grief and pain. So liberation means complete freedom. So everybody wants freedom. Even our country was being governed by the British people, and then all the uh, leaders thought that let's get liberated from this British rule. And so they all came together and made a strategy. And of course, Gandhiji helped that thing. And we got liberated in 1947 from the British Raj. So we were under the rule of British people. So getting liberated is a nature of a human being. Nobody wants to be under anyone, Even the kids doesn't want to be under their parents. Jia, you want to listen to your parents or you want to do on your own?
Both, actually.
Both actually. So like our parents are our well-wisher. They will guide us, So it is quite correct that everyone wants to get liberated, but it is always good to remain under guidance of senior people, They have experience, they will share their experience. And since we are not experienced now, we may commit mistakes. And you must have seen among your friend circle that she committed such mistake and then she has to suffer. And that is why the depression and all things are coming up, And recently there is a case going on of a suicide of an actress, Jia Khan. You must have read in the newspaper. And that boyfriend has been charged of committing, it's called abetment to suicide, So he's being charged that you made her pregnant and then you said that I will not marry you. So now that what that child will do? So she committed a suicide. Because here the family members are also scolding him. Her boyfriend also left her. So now she has nothing else. So she committed suicide. Now that boyfriend is being sued for that crime, So when we don't listen to our seniors and we do take decisions on our own, sometimes we may go wrong. Okay. So our attempt to get liberated is good. But liberation from what? Liberation from grief and pain. Okay. Now, what is grief and what is pain? A 5-year-old kid, a 5-year-old kid and his mother is scolding him, beating him. You cannot term this as an anger, because mother is looking at the welfare. He is already having cough and all, and if he eats that chocolate or sweets, then his cough will increase, So mother is beating that child just to make him not to eat that chocolate and whatever it is, sweets, right? So that is not anger. So you have to understand what is grief and pain. First, the realization of grief and pain is very important. Then only you will try to get liberated from that. So the first part is the realization of grief and pain. That's why in Chhadala, in the first chapter, Pandit Daulat Ramji explained about the grief and pain and miseries that is there in the 4 state of existence. Whether you are in human life or in subhuman life or in a heavenly being or in hell, there is miseries everywhere. So first you have to realize this. And once you realize this, then you will find a way to get liberation from this. All unhappiness is full of restlessness. Restlessness means akulta, anxiety. Okay. Liberation, therefore, must be without any restlessness. So what is liberation? Liberation means complete freedom from grief and pain and any kinds of restlessness. There is no complete happiness, that is liberation, as long as there is even a little bit of restlessness. So we actually want to get rid of grief, pain, and restlessness, and then only we can have happiness. So describing the path of liberation, Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev in Purshatsidi Upai writes, the unity of right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct is the path of liberation. When we say unity, that means that only right faith will not be enough. Only right knowledge will not be enough. And only right conduct will not be enough. All three things coming together will form the path of liberation. Okay. So what is the path of liberation now? Jia? Unity of right faith, right knowledge, and right
Right.
conduct. Okay. So these three are called jewels, three jewels, and unity of right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. That means only right faith will not be the path of liberation. Only right knowledge is not the path of liberation, but the unity of these three. So the first definition is coming up here. First one, this one. It is thus clear that the unity of the three, right faith, which means true belief, right knowledge, which means true understanding, and right conduct is real path to liberation. So this is the first definition. What is the path of liberation? The question now arises, what are right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct? So this is explained in the second paragraph. Next paragraph. Really speaking, all the three are modifications of the soul. Okay. All the three are the modifications of the soul. So right faith is an attribute also, and it is a modification also. Right knowledge is again a attribute also and a modification also. And right conduct is also an attribute and a modification. So all the three modifications of the soul, they are its pure modification. So modification of right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct are pure modifications of the soul. Discarding non-self substances to lean towards one's soul and to regard it as one's nature is right faith. So what is right faith? Discarding non-self substances. So first you have to do discriminative knowledge. You have to practice discriminative knowledge between the non-self and the self. So discarding non-self substances to lean towards one's soul. Okay. To incline toward one's soul and to regard it means regard the soul as one's nature, as our nature is right faith. Okay. So how right faith can be attained? First, we have to discard non-self substances, and then we have to incline our active consciousness towards our soul. So the active consciousness was busy in five sensory objects. Now to transform that active consciousness from there to our soul, that is the effort that we have to put in. So once we put in that effort and our active consciousness moves away from five sensory objects towards our soul, and then the self-realization happens. Our active consciousness gets absorbed in the soul, and the path and that is the moment of self-realization. And when that self-realization happens, then we call it as right faith. So right faith begins with the self-realization. Now coming on to the right knowledge. What is this right knowledge? To have real knowledge of the soul and the other substance So what is right knowledge? Right knowledge is the real knowledge of the soul and other substances. Is 1 minute. And other substance is right knowledge, and to merge oneself with one's sentiment is right conduct. So right faith is the inclination of the active consciousness towards the soul and to consider it as our own nature. Okay. So oneness with the soul is the right faith. Then to have real knowledge of the soul and the other substances is right knowledge, self and non-self. You have to have the right knowledge of the self, means our soul, and the non-self substances. Okay. Is the right knowledge. And what is right conduct? Then now you have realized yourself to merge oneself with the one's sentiment is right conduct. Okay. And to merge oneself with one's sentient soul is right conduct. So this is explained in brief. Now they will explain in detail in the next few paragraphs. So explain it further from there. Himaliji, you read. Explaining it further.
Yes. Explaining it further, Acharya Amrit Chandra writes, correct belief of soul substance and other elements without any contradictory faith is right faith. One should try to achieve it always, since it is the nature of the soul itself. First of all, we should try to develop right faith, because path to liberation does not begin without achieving this. Of all the three, first of all, we should try to achieve right faith with all our strength, since in the presence of this attribute, both consciousness and conduct become right. Without right faith, all knowledge is ignorance, and all merits, including abstinence and rules of conduct, are unreal conduct.
Stop.
Disciple.
Stop.
Yes.
So this is the third definition, and here it is explained in detail. And then in the fourth one, they will explain it in further detail. So it is just an expansion of the three jewels: right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. So what is right faith? Correct belief of soul, substance, and other elements. So we have done 7 fundamentals. Now the correct knowledge of the 7 fundamentals is the only cause of manifesting right faith. Okay. So correct belief of soul, substance, and other elements, other fundamental elements, that means soul, non-soul, influx, bondage, stoppage of influx, dissociation of bondage, and liberation. These are the 7 fundamentals, and having the correct knowledge and belief of soul, substance, and other elements without any contradictory faith is right faith. So for right faith, you have to know the 7 fundamentals. So we have done concept clarity paper 1 on this just because this was very important. Your right faith, you will have right faith, right? One should try to achieve it always, since it is the nature of the soul itself. First of all, we should try to develop right faith, because path to liberation does not begin without achieving this. So first and foremost, we should have right faith. Of all the three, first of all, we should try to achieve right faith with all our strength, since in the presence of this attribute, both consciousness, that means knowledge, and conduct becomes right. So when you have a right faith, knowledge also becomes right and conduct also becomes right. Without right faith, all knowledge is ignorance, and all merits, including abstinence and rules of conduct, are real unconduct. Okay. So without right faith, all knowledge is ignorance, and all merits, including abstinence and rules of conduct, are unreal conduct. So first we need to have the right faith, and all knowledge is ignorance. So if you are a doctor, your knowledge is ignorance. If you are an engineer, your knowledge is ignorance. Why? Because you don't have the right knowledge of the 7 fundamentals. So anybody and everybody who does not know the right nature of 7 elements, 7 fundamental elements, and still if they are a doctor or a high court judge or a Supreme Court judge or a engineer or a whatever field you say, chartered accountant, MBA, whatever, all these knowledge are not going to help us in the path of liberation, right? So to get into the path of liberation, we should have the right faith of the 7 fundamentals. Okay. Without this knowledge of the fundamentals, all other knowledge is not fruitful to us in the path of liberation. Okay. So now the 4th definition is coming up, but our time is getting over. So we will close here and we will again start from where we left today. Again, the right faith and right knowledge and right conduct is explained in detail. Now, this is the 4th definition. So we have cleared 3 definitions. Okay. The 4th one we will do in the next class, and that is the how we'll conclude this chapter. Okay. So those who have completed assignments is okay. Paper concept clarity paper 2, but those who are still not submitted, do it as early as possible. So then I will check all together, because once I check, then I forgot. So I want this time to give a feedback to all those who have submitted. So I will wait for a few more days by the time you complete your paper 2 also, and then we will discuss what are the good points and where you have committed the mistakes in the concept clarity, because this is the first time. So we will have this exercise once, and then you will realize how to write it, and there will be no further mistakes. So don't forget to write the myth buster also at the end of the concept clarity. And we will continue with this chapter of path of liberation next week. Okay. So we'll end. निज निधि निज में बताई, यह अनंत उपकार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना 7 बार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना 7 बार है। 9 बार नौकार मंत्र गिनेंगे। जय जिनेन्द्र।